before we even get into anything else, want to give a huge shout out to all the attendees tonight. You all have stayed with us. Hopefully, you walked away with some form of a gem, whatever that may be. Because tonight was all about standing on the mission of this company, right? We want to prepare creators at the end of the day, and preparation is the name of the game, right? You can be as prepared as you want to be, or think your song is as great as it wants to be, but at the end of the day, what a music supervisor is going to pick the song is based on your preparedness. And I'm just glad we get a chance to talk about life beyond the placement in this session. But thank you, Jasmine, for all of your incredible hard work for being the voice of these artists and will continue to be. And hopefully everyone is understanding what tonight is all about. So thank you.
Yes, well said, DG. Well said. Before we dive deeper, honestly I just want to flex a little bit more. Let's show some examples of the work that we do here.
Lines align the constellations. Manifesto demonstration. In this waiting room of life, tell them we the next patient. Tell them we next. Tell them we next. Tell them. It should cost $1 billion to look this good. Oh, yeah. But you make it look easy because she got it. Check my technique. You can find the one when
that right there is all you. It's mentally already in my closet.
Okay, that's right. That's my technique. That's my, that's my, that's my technique. That bitch. Me too. Right and left cheek. I did. My dear. That's my technique. All my pretty girls to the floor. It should cost $1 billion to lift this good. Oh, yeah.
How about that? How about that? So, what you just saw were two clips. One was a Lyft campaign for the Wait and Save feature at Lyft, featuring a record by Latasha called What's Next. And also, Beyonce's Pure Honey featured in an episode of All's Fair, which is, y'all saw the legendary DC Nash, as well as Kim K, Glenn Close, and a couple other heavyweights in that clip. So these are just examples, again, of, what it looks like to manage rights and synchronize and place those records with premiere content.
Let's dance, Jasmine. What you got for us? Let's talk about Beyond the Placement now that we've seen them. What you got?
All right. Yes, that was incredible. Like fire campaign. We did that. Alrighty. So, got some questions for the codes. All right. Y'all ready?
Let's hear it. Never scared.
Let's do it. All right. Oh, okay. All right. So a sync placement, it can be a moment, but a creator's catalog is a long-term asset, right? So we're talking about beyond the placement now. We're talking about publishing, creative strategy, long-term stuff like that. How should creators and their publishing partners think about each placement as part of a larger career and catalog strategy?
I'll go ahead and kick this off. One of the things that DG actually mentioned in the chat earlier was that one of our first syncs at Waves Manufacturing was made possible by Cameron Nielsen with Idlewild Pictures. It was an indie film called Shooting Process that licensed one of my records, Sauce, by my group Dave and Sam. And so an example of that situation, right? The sync is a moment. Sometimes the sync is a fat check. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes, you're looking at gratis situations, right? Which, for those who don't know, gratis essentially means free. Sometimes you're looking at just very nominal, especially with independent productions. The budgets are usually not that high. And so one of the things that was so significant about that first sync moment for us was okay, so you got the sync, great. Again, whatever money was made was at the most, enough to kind of bust down gas money for everybody, right? And but beyond that moment, immediately DG had the intuition to say, okay, well, is there a screening of the film and when? Is it going to festival? Can we get access to the festival screenings? that that sync can turn into an opportunity to go to the screening, meet the people who are involved, meet the the wider team involved with the situation. That could potentially, depending on kind of um, how well developed those screening situations are, that can be a red carpet moment. That can be a Getty moment. That was absolutely my first Getty moment in LA, and that was a Getty moment for DG in New York. And so we were able to, bi-coastally, make our presence felt, capture evergreen content essentially, and then also relationships that now, gosh, did you want to be talking about 4 years later that show up right here in this room today, with Cameron coming on and speaking with us about everything that he has going on. So again, a sync is not always just about, I gotta say, it's not always just about the excitement of hearing you in this, piece of content, and it's not always just about the check. And so even when you talk about some of those gratis opportunities, we absolutely have placed artists with gratis opportunities in the past, and even in the present actually. And while of course our objective is to pursue the bag at all times, depending on what that opportunity is, it could be something that, for one, could be establishing an artist sync record, essentially. Now they actually, by taking that opportunity, they have a history and a track record that they can boast, brag, throw on a resume, throw on a portfolio, throw on a highlight reel, and then or run on their, their socials, to just establish that. Again, depending on who's producing that film, there's an opportunity to establish a very thorough relationship. Shara spoke about, getting reaching out about Insecure and ending up in Princess Penny's film, essentially somebody who was a part of that experience who then said, "Oh, I recognize how great you are. I want to make sure that you're a part of my next project." So all of these things are possible if you approach the moment with open mind, open heart, and a little bit of you know, creativity, if you will.
That's amazing. A lot of like expansion and a way to keep it like evolving, which is incredible. BG, were you going to add on to that?
I was, in a sentence, a placement is activation of an asset, but the key word being activation. It just started, right? The placement is not the end of that. And it doesn't matter what that is, if that ends in a check or gratuitous, it's the start of a process. And so what that really unlocks is a new audience in a new way, but a different audience, as artists, as performers, songwriters, producers, composers, DJs, etc. Understandably, you are most focused on a certain audience, and that's the audience in front of you, right? But the beautiful part about a sync placement is that it unlocks for you now a whole completely different complexity of a relationship, right? It signals really to music supervisors, directors, composers, etc., that you're ready. That's the number one thing that a sync placement does. It signals that right? So in a lot of ways, success does beget success, as it relates to sync placements. If you can show it once, that means you probably know how to go through this process multiple times. And so in many ways, I just encourage you all to think about that first placement, and then the rest will build on itself.
That is so good. It's true. I think it's encouraging to say that as well. For whatever that like waiting room moment is for the next thing. Like you did it once, you can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, Amazing. All right. So next question is what should creators be doing before that opportunity arises to make their catalog even more valuable? Not through just the music, because we talked about that. It's not just about the placement, but from the admin and publishing perspective through the rights management, even their creative development, um, and how they even build the catalog to begin with. Like, what are the steps before you do that outreach?
I'll take this one briefly. So I'll just say it's kind of in three components, really, and this is being reductive because this is not everything. But in this short amount of time that we have, I will make sure that these bullet points are kind of taken away for this group specifically. Number one, deliver assets quickly, no matter what those assets are. And when you saw in the chat earlier, what that delivery package can kind of look like: instrumentals, acapella, ensuring that you have everything ready to go, and staying at the ready. So when we're talking about these tools, et cetera, it's not just another tool for you to manage, it's a tool for you to use. And a lot of that has to do with being able to have accurate information, accurate metadata. This is all the information you've heard throughout every single session, but we're reiterating it for a reason because it's about the preparation. But the number one out of all of them that I will say, and this is a lot of times hardest for artists, across all spectrums, to kind of adhere to, and understandably so. Especially if you are an independent artist, kind of carrying this work on your own, it's a lot to manage. But ultimately, respecting deadlines is respecting relationships. And so, if you are a person that is prone to kind of respecting these timelines that you hear or deadlines that you hear from a music supervisor, director, whoever it may be coming from, respect it, because they're respecting you enough to give you music time. Respect them enough to understand their deadlines and what they need to do too. It's a two-way street on all of this stuff, and so that's the number one thing I would say. Respect the deadlines, in
Yep.
addition to the other factors.
Look, I'm gonna sum it up with this: the 5 P's. At Waves Manufacturing, that is absolutely what we believe in. Some of you all may have heard that phrase and understand that it's proper preparation prevents poor performance. True, but in addition to that, making sure that your product is in line, in place, everything, every asset is ready, artwork, all of that good stuff, descriptions, all of that, your promotional plan, your actual plans with your collaborators, meaning not just you're dropping and you got 10 people on the record and they just wake up and they're on the record, but are they tapped in? Are they aware of the schedule, of the marketing campaign, of the timeline, and able to hype it and make it look larger than just you? Professionalism.
Over there. See?
Let's mute that. Let's mute that. Professionalism. Mute me. Making sure that you've got great relationships with all of the people in essentially the supply chain, right? And that you got your registrations in on time. That everybody who needs to, that, as I always say, everybody who needs to sign something, that they are well aware of what's coming and are locked in and ready. And then what's the post game plan? So product promotion, planning, professionalism, and post. If you are thinking along those lines for your record, and there's a lot of nuanced details within that, of course, but if you're thinking along those lines for anything that you release, there's a really good chance that you will be able to take care of those tidbits that DG spoke of.
And can I add one thing as well, really quickly, Jasmine? That this doesn't get spoken about enough, but I would say, like with anything that you are a part of, you would want to promote, right? And that is, at the end of the day, one of the things that could lead to the reoccurring relationships with music supervisors. If they see that you are a partner that will be willing to extend the life of that scene, whether that be promo on social media, whether that be however you lift, that scene and that you are a part of, it tends to go further. And so the hope is that the check, or the look, is not where it ends, but again, that's the activation of it. And that as an artist, you will understand that it's in your best interest to make sure that you are a part of promoting something that you're a part of. Dave mentioned the Sharu process and everything that happened with Cameron earlier. That's a perfect example. Because we decided to go above and beyond for this independent film, that's how you come back around to this moment tonight. And so continue to understand that it's really, really important to not just get the sync and the placement, but build that relationship through being a part of the process of spreading the word of what you're a part of.
Mhm. Before you cut, I'm actually add on top of that because there's one detail I did not add to just how deep we went with, I guess, exploiting that opportunity with that first sync. We actually went as far as to edit footage from the film. We asked for a copy of the screener, and we edited footage of the film into the official music video, like 90 style. You know what I mean? Back in the day when you had the clips of the movie interspersed with the theme of the music video and all of that, we went there all the way. And so they had no choice but to be behind not only just the moment, but then be behind the record as the record carried on and got remixed and got, as a matter of fact, the label chose to remix the record and do an entire new single package around it because of that effort.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, so it takes being proactive, that outreach, building those relationships, because then you can manipulate the work um, into different homes. Wow, that's incredible. Even I'm learning in so many ways, so many downloads. This is incredible. All right. So we want to leave space as well for Q&A. And think about your question from like a publishing perspective. Maybe you want to ask about like back end royalties, like some of the money stuff or rights that we haven't talked about. So this is very unique that you're hearing from a publisher when it comes to sync. That it doesn't happen often. So as we did before, any like hands up features or where I can see so that I can call on you and the queue of which I see. Um, anything on sync and publishing beyond the placement. What happens after? We're talking about checks, money, rights,
I'm
royalties.
about to start popcorning everybody and just start
Right.
like
I see
seeing if they
Ella.
have questions.
Look,
I
look,
saw
they speechless,
Sahara
DG.
and then Sincere. That's the queue right now. So Sahara, you're up.
Hello, hi DG squared.
Yeah.
Hey.
Thank you. You guys are dropping so many gems. You know, I was saying earlier that I'm a newbie to this. This is just something that I'm really interested in. I'm a DJ right now. So I feel like I've already kind of got that placement inside of me, but I need to know more of the technical background. So what would you suggest I start? Like learning how to license, learning what all these different contracts and all these different words mean. Because right now I'm taking in the information, but I just want to know kind of where I can start to prepare me for what's to come in the future.
First of all, let me just say, like, thank you for showing up for yourself tonight. And hopefully, again, this information that you're hearing, even if it does feel like the water hose is being turned on with a lot of information, that you know that we'll be here to support long after tonight, whether you're on the roster or not. So just know that we're here as a resource to support your journey. And absolutely, what Dave just put in the chat, that is an incredibly important resource to the work. But let me just say this. A lot of the music industry, and this is why we host these type of forums, there can be a lot of misinformation out there, particularly now on, with social media and et cetera. So what we always try to encourage an artist like yourself that's in the developing stage of their career is focusing on what matters. And what matters is really understanding this two basic concepts, that everything in this music industry is related to two copyrights. That's it. And those two copyrights kind of determine your journey with everything else. That's the sound recording copyright, which you historically have heard referred to as a master. And that's the performing arts copyright that you hear referred to as publishing. The reason why these two sides are important is because that's all everyone's been talking about tonight. You heard about a one-stop agreement. You heard about making sure that both sides are talking to each other. But really what this amounts to is it's the mechanism by which you should prepare everything. And it also eliminates a lot of the noise. We've heard all kind of horror stories on our journey, but most of the time what we find is that the horror stories aren't intentional. The horror stories are an outcome. And so for someone starting out, I would really, really encourage you to learn about performing rights organizations. What is ASCAP? What is BMI? But not just what are they? Why are they? They have a name for a reason, and those names speak to something. And this is the journey that I would encourage you to take. And the reason why what Dave put in it in terms of the book is a perfect place to start is because if you just read the prologue of the Guide to Music Publishing, you know more than probably 90% of the music industry. You'd be surprised how many people have jobs in the music industry that have no idea about this part of the music industry, whether that be managers, agents, you name it. And so you will put yourself in a position to be a better artist because you know why? What did Risha say earlier? If you're in the room, don't be afraid of the business. Why are artists afraid of the business? Because they don't quite understand it when they're doing it in the room. And that's no one's fault. It's just an outcome. So what I would encourage you to do is do as much education you can on the front end, be prepared around that so that you have the confidence going into any recording you're doing, any collaboration you're doing, you make sure that your splits are ready to go. Then you can lean into all the creative aspects because you're comfortable with your business. So hopefully that gives you a starting point on this in terms of understanding two sides to a song. But when we're saying two sides to a song, it's those two copyrights, and then everything else unlocks from there.
Absolutely. The last thing that I'll add to that is, again, the knowledge is absolutely critical. The industry itself is 1,000% the Wild West, right? You hear people say things like that. You hear stories about crazy things that happen, and it's kind of like the audacity. But the audacity is literally what moves the industry. There are some very basic laws that are in place, but those laws actually regulate a system that most people may not be aware of this, but is one of the most well-regulated entertainment industry royalty structures that there is. If done right, if treated right, if thought about with the right amount of intentionality, you know, your rights as a creator can be, you can consider them akin to annuities, right? If you want to think about investments and things like that, right? Each song is an asset. It's literally an asset, and the people who you work with on them are partners in the success of that asset. And so, uh, you know, that's kind of what you want to. That's something that you want to hone in on, and you want to understand that at the baseline, if you treat each project like that, that will ensure that you, for one, take the care and the respect for yourself and for your collaborators, but also that are you ask critical questions of your collaborators, right? Everybody in the world of music wants to say, or in the independent world of music, we all come to the table initially as we're friends, kumbaya, 50-50, 25, 25, 25, 25, third, third, third. Well, what are the actual definitions of what it means to publish a thing, right? It's not just an agreement. Technically, it's an agreement, but it really comes down to the promotion of the actual copyright itself. That is what publishing is. And so, if the people who you're making a record with are not, dare I say, equal contributors to the full scope of what it is to have that record out in the wild, not just they wrote on it, not just they produced on it, but if they wrote and produced on it and then walk away the next day and never do anything with that record, they're not equal partners in that record based on the actual definitions of what these things are. But what you actually do from an agreement standpoint, again, it's totally up to the people at the table. So you're literally, as all of these entities are, making it up as you go along from that perspective. And so with that, the more of an understanding of what those meanings are, the less that somebody can tell you, oh, this has got to be this split versus this split. Oh, half of it is to the producers, half of it is to the writers. And, sorry if it's 10 of y'all on the writer side. I'm the producer, I got 50. Look, what you deserve is what you can negotiate, period. Especially in this game. So if you have a solid foundation of what it actually means to do all of these different functions, that's what'll help you move forward with your catalog.
So good. All right. So we've got another question I see from Sincere. You got the floor.
Congratulations, Recording Academy member, class of 2026.
I know, right?
Appreciate you, King. I appreciate
family.
you.
What up? What up?
What's good, Brody? First off, I want to say congratulations on this. It's been amazing. I got 3 of my favorite people on the stage at one time.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. I did have a question. This is more for something I think that hasn't maybe been touched on. Not necessarily just for me. I know that sometimes it can be difficult to figure out where you fit in the spectrum of creating and the sync world and finding your footing. And that is a difficult thing, especially if you consider yourself really part of the artistry side of it. This side can be real scary to you. what is a key piece of advice you would give to somebody who, forget talking to supervisors, forget all of that first? What is a key piece of information you would give to an artist who just isn't even sure what they bring to the table as an artist in this round?
Man, okay. So since if you don't mind, I'll jump off the ledge with this one. I'll make it brief. Artists need to understand because it was said earlier, but I think it's even more important in the context of the question you asked. Risha said multiple times in her session that it's just business, and I know that a lot of times when you hear something like that, it can sound like it's reductive. But I'm going to give a real life scenario of something that happened that drives home this point. We received a placement opportunity, and I'm going to give the numbers and everything because we're here. We said real talk, so we're going to give the
We
real
see in
talk.
real talk,
Yeah,
DG.
we said real talk. So
Numbers.
we had a $30,000 sync opportunity on the table, and it was for a game, a video game. I won't say which game because then that's too much information. But that placement, by the way, the letter of inquiry, which a lot of time is the first step, meaning they will call to inquire, or reach out to you to inquire about about your song, and they want to find out a quote from you on what it would be, or they will present a quote to you on what it will be. In this scenario, we received the quote directly, and we had a partner who owned one side of the song who wanted to push a little bit more for some money. Let's call it what it is. Um, and so because they control the master side, so I want to make sure I'm using all the stories. They were using all the details. They owned the master side, we were the publisher, and they wanted to push for more money for the sync opportunity. So it grew from 10K to 30K, and we went through all the process, got all the paperwork signed, everything was done. We thought this was a done deal. And then you get an email out of the blue, and it's like, hey, what happened? We just want to circle back on this, and it's, oh, we went another direction. So information signed, contract signed, agreement signed, everything signed, and ultimately they went another direction. If 30K is on the line, do you want to take it personal? Absolutely. I wanted to jump through the phone for like 7 straight days and do something to somebody. But here's the reality of it. You go on.
Mm-hmm.
You move on,
Mm-hmm.
and you dust yourself off, and you do it again. That's the equivalent of a fan, right? You meet a fan, someone will like your music, someone won't. None of this stuff is personal. And that's the point. Be prepared for business, and the next opportunity will come again. And so, sharing that level of detail, because ultimately, a lot of it is staying in the field, not letting one know keep you from coming back again, keep you from reaching out. And in this case, fortunately for you, sincere, I can say this personally, you're experiencing what the point of having a publisher is that you don't have to deal in any of this. you know,
Right.
we we will deal with all of the headache and the nose for you. And all you got to do is keep giving us at bats, right? And so that's the beauty of that sort of symbiotic relationship between the artist and the publisher. But ultimately, that example is one where no one did anything wrong. Everyone was prepared and everything else, and someone still chose to go in a different direction. And you just got to be at peace with that.
I'll give you yeah, no, hell of a story. I'll give you another one with some numbers attached to it. And this is just really tied to, again, kind of the understanding of who you are and what you bring to a situation. We had a scenario with a sync that ended up, again, falling through. And when I tell you, to this day, literally, we just had a conversation yesterday. We're like, I still don't know what actually happened with this sync situation because we have the ad. We actually have the meta ad with the music synced to it and everything. And just one day they were like, yeah, sorry, it's just that's not gonna work for meta. And so what was so interesting about that situation, when you talk again about what you bring to it, this was a song, DG, that place, that sync was something around, what was it, like 85,000, or no, it was 85 on each side, so it was like 170 total. um on this record, I guess, controlled 20% of the publishing on that record, so y'all can probably do the math on that. When it came down to the master, however, early in my career, this was for a label, and now I won't say the name of this label. That's the one thing I withhold. But early in my career, I took what was essentially a buyout deal, meaning I wanted to be paid for the work, for the performance on the record. And I very loosely, well before I was anywhere versed as I am now, signed maybe let's say $750 for a buyout fee. That at the time, for where I was at in the game, $750 for a verse was a big deal. However, what I did not realize was I signed away my right to the master in that process. And so, in a situation where I'm getting supposed to get 20% basically of a record, if the excuse me, if the sync clears 180,000, let's again, what's that? I don't know, somewhere around $36,000 basically if I have both sides of the record. However, we found out as soon as the sync came across, hey, no, Wave, y'all are only involved in the publishing side of this conversation because that master, you signed that away. At which point, in the wake of the sync, even without the sync, even without us even knowing that it was going off the rails at the time, that was an opportunity to go back in with additional legal support and with my own management and to actually go in and fight and say, hey, you basically got me on a predatory deal. This was a predatory contract that I signed 5 years ago before I knew even an inkling of what's going on here. I could see if this was a song that you didn't expect to hit, but this was the lead single, and it's the top at the time was the highest performing song in that artist's catalog. So we were already eating off of that record, and we had to basically kind of stand our ground and say, hey, like this is something that we'll throw our weight around and let people know that y'all are doing real shady business if we can't rectify this and get this master thing resolved. And so, no, that sync did not clear. But guess what happened after that? After the sync came off the table, I then became part of the master through, again, taking stock of what I brought to the situation, under doing all the bits and pieces of it. Right? People say, oh well, I was on it. I wrote a verse, so I matter. No, I wrote a verse and it matters. However, Spotify Wrapped end of the year quotes from my verse are quotes on Spotify Wrapped for that song. And so I understood that this was beyond just I did a thing, but I actually brought value to a record that was the highest performing song in this person's catalog. Y'all gotta cut me in properly. And so that's an example of, we lost the battle, but ultimately won the war because it gave us an opportunity to really actually understand what we were worth.
Wow.
Jasmine, I just want to
GG.
say, like, oh, I just wanted to just say to everybody, thank y'all for hanging out. We are over time, and y'all are still here, attentive. You know what I mean? Like,
Locked in.
staying with us. Yeah, yeah. And big shout out to our host, Jasmine. I'm sorry, but I just want to give everyone some love.
Yeah, no, it's like well deserved. I was just gonna say it pays to be diligent, right? To stick around, to get back up, but also to like grow, like over time. So yeah, I feel like it's worthwhile getting these like concrete examples, getting like, I hit this wall, don't do this. Like that is so important. And not everybody is willing to share. So that's super important. Um, Amazing.
I'm just
Okay.
looking at the
So,
chat. Love is love, y'all. Love is love. Thank
man,
you.
I'm telling you, and I see some of my people in here that they've come and gone. I feel so, I'm in overflow right now.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
okay.
Appreciate
So
it.
with that,
International, worldwide, time
I'm
zones all
telling
out of
you,
order.
yes, crazy. Canada,
You can
there's
be
all
anywhere in
kinds
the
of places.
world.
Right. Exactly. So what I'm gonna do with that, because I get the vibration of so many like curious spirits, folks who still want to connect. This is like kind of a pilot to more work that we're gonna be doing as far as summiting and having folks come. So, keep an eye out. We drop links in the chat. You wanna keep an eye on those. And we just have to go back and give our thank yous that are so well due. Y'all got so much tonight. I got so much tonight. I know y'all got so much tonight. I want to say and give heartfelt gratitude to the Waves team, E-team, roster members, community members, supporters, our songwriters, producers, composers, and DJs. A thank you to our panelists and our partners. Thank you for making this what it was, so fruitful, so generative, community network, and folks blowing up the chat and just coming away with such a knowledge. What I will also do on the back end to keep my words, I'm very big on like trying to keep my word as much as possible. For anyone who's not a roster member, we'll just kick it like lottery style, and I'll say three names, three non-roster folks, because we know obviously who's on the roster and who's not, to do one-on-ones, and we can go a little deeper for a hot 20 minutes, and like, you can get a review on your metadata or feedback on your song, or you could ask more questions, but there'll be 3 slots for like consultations and like coaching in the sync space. So that will be coming up following this session, this summit, which is just crazy. Super excited about. Any like closing words before we get into our final presentation?
I want
I
to
just had
add,
one, Jasmine, really quickly. Want to take this
do.
moment to bring him out the shadows really quickly. To our technical director, Christopher Butler, who is behind the scenes
Yes, there
making
it
all this
is. Okay.
happen. Want to lift him up. Thank you so much, Chris C, for bringing this home tonight, for being in the shadows and bringing this to the forefront, keeping everything as seamless as possible and keeping us all engaged around this. Sometimes in this work you don't always be seen, but you are felt, and that's an example of this tonight. So, Chris, we know you're back there doing your big one, and just want to appreciate you and lift you up for the work that you've done to make this summit happen tonight.
My pleasure. Love y'all.
Yes,
I love you
thank
too,
you
brother. You
so much.
did your big one. Give it up for C. And the last thing I just want to say is that, if anything that you've heard here tonight has moved you, or you feel like, man, I'm really curious about partnering with Waves, I'm going to drop a calendar link in the chat. I'm going to just be fully transparent. Feel free to book time in September on because we've already got a pretty busy August, on our plate. But yeah, feel free to book time so that we can talk about possibilities with partnership.
Incredible. And with that, we've got another presentation as our closeout. Yes. Oh, you're muted, DG.
C said, wrap it up, B.
No, it's all good. My hands went up in the air. I'm all hyped. Give it up for our host, Jasmine Benward, y'all. Come on now. Like, Jasmine killed this tonight. She's been
That's right.
amazing
That's
guiding us
Thank
through
you.
right.
tonight. We appreciate you, Jasmine. She
Uh,
keeps all our heads on a swivel around here. So y'all give Jasmine some love.
the goat, the goat. Y'all are getting a true gift. We are blessed and highly favored to, have Jasmine in our midst representing us, and y'all are absolutely getting a gift. Jasmine is a treasure and is absolutely well versed, knowledgeable, and elite when it comes to this music supervision, sync licensing biz. So please tap in to this resource that is in front of you. And last but not least, shout out to Sam for dropping that bomb. Soundwave series in New York City. All right. Anybody who's on the East Coast, tap in with us. The links will be going up pretty soon, last week of September.